G'day and welcome to Art-sans-wank. Now today I'm going to have a bit of a chat to you about framing. Unfortunately I'm not actually going to show you how to frame your artworks yourself. However, considering your framing options are pretty much endless, hopefully I'll give you some tips and tricks so you know what you're looking for and you don't get ripped off when you walk into the framing store. Now, one of the first decisions you're going to have to make is what type of frame you want. As you can see here and from the image behind me, I've gone for a really simple, thick black border. I think simple is good. It draws the focus into the image, which is really what you're trying to do anyway. You're not necessarily limited by having a simple border. If you want something a little bit elaborate, we'll see what your framing shot's got. They'll have heaps of options, and you can really kind of make the image pop. As you can see here, I've gone for a bit of a metallic look, still wood, silver frame that really draws out the silver foil that's contained in the image. I'm a huge fan of this image, done by a Melbourne artist, which makes it even better. One of the other things you're going to have to pick is your matte boarding. You don't have to have matte boarding, but I find it gives an additional kind of frame to it, adds a bit more depth to the picture, really kind of helps draw the emphasis to the artwork itself, giving a bit of negative space. And I'll talk about negative space on my blog another time. Now, you don't necessarily have to go with one piece of matte boarding either. You can see from the images behind me, I've got a bit of a double matte boarding going on. I've actually included some spaces on there too, so it gives the image even more depth. Just sort of helps, draw you into the image, creates a bit of a focal point. You don't really see it, it's pretty subtle, but overall looks pretty cool. While we're still talking about the fronts of images, something you're going to have to consider is the glass. Now I've gone for a non-reflective glass on all of these images. I find it really helps in really, really bright rooms where you're going to get glare from either natural light or from lighting you've got hanging in the room. It also stops any kind of, dodgy reflection or, means you can kind of look at the artwork, as it's intended. One thing it does do though, if you're looking at it from a bit of an angle, or particularly a sharp angle, you'll find it gives it this kind of matte sheen to it. So it can distort the image a little bit if you're not looking at it dead on. But small price to pay, costs a little bit more, but I think it's worth it. Looking at the back of the image, something you're going to have to pick is what type of backing the artwork's actually stuck onto. Now I've gone for an acid-free backing on all of my artwork as a rule of thumb. I find it's a good investment, probably won't cost you much more, but what it'll do is it'll preserve the colours and the quality of the image for years to come. Some other things to look for is the taping job. You can see here, I've had this one for a little while. It's starting to fray, come a bit loose at the edge. That's fine, that's something you can fix yourself, just be mindful of it. It's not a particularly sharp job in the first place, but you can see it's obviously got a bit of moisture behind it, or just age has started peeling away from the frame. Probably the only other thing to be mindful of is how your actual hanging wire is attached. You can see from this one, it's just a simple piece of rope that's stapled onto the back of it. Nothing wrong with that. This picture's been hanging on my wall for years, hasn't fallen down yet, but it certainly doesn't look that neat. But hey, you're looking at the front of it anyway. Jumping back to this other image, you can see the quality of work on the back is a step up. You can see the type of hinge they've used there. It's basically bolted straight onto the wood frame. It looks really cool, really neat and tidy, super professional job. This wire here is actually plastic coated, so it's not going to scratch up your wall. It's going to keep everything in good condition, and you can see the type of taping job that they've done there. Really neat and tidy, finished off all the corners really well. All in all, really professional framing job. Paid for it though. The other thing to be mindful of is what you're actually hanging up in the first place. Something like that, or a big heavy frame, you might want to make sure that you've got a really, really solid piece of string or wire to hang it from. If you're going for a bit of a lightweight stretched canvas, this thing's really light, I'm sure I could frisbee it across the room. Something like a piece of string stapled to the back of it, well, that's not going to go anywhere, and I'm only going to need a tiny nail in the wall to hold that up. That's about all from me from now, guys. Hope you enjoy the blog. Check back regularly for new posts, and I'll keep you posted if I find anything cool online. Cheers, guys.